Hi everyone, and welcome to the Card Combo Show with me, Chocobilly, where we look at weird and wonderful card combinations in the Final Fantasy TCG. Let's get to it. Okay, so the first card I want to talk about is Lezaford 6-080H. So when Lezaford enters the field, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, play one wind character that costs 5 or less among them onto the field, and return the other cards to the bottom of the deck in any order. So Bart is the first card that comes to mind. When Bart enters the field, activate all the characters you control. So that would mean Lezaford and Bart get activated. Used to be the case you ran the old 5 cost forward Barts with this, but this guy basically means that you accelerate from 3 to 5 backups, and you've effectively paid 4, but because you get to reactivate the forwards, you have paid a faux 2. Fat Chocobo. So I ironically don't run Lezaford in any of my Chocobo decks, but he would work. When Fat Chocobo enters the field, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, add all card named Chocobo among them into your hand, and return the other cards to the bottom of your deck in any order. Basically, you could just play Lezaford, Fat Chocobo, go to 5 backups, and hopefully get 5 cards to hand. Same applies to the other Fat Chocobo, so when he enters the field, you can search for another Chocobo, play that onto the field. It could be the Chocobo that plays another Chocobo. So you could again accelerate to 5 backups, and you could also just get a buttload of Chocobos onto the field as well and just go ham. Varn, so you can bring Varn onto the field and then bring another wind forward of cost 3 or less. So you've got a backup, a forward, and hopefully another forward. It could be something like Zidane to look at your opponent's hand, so that can be quite offensive towards your opponent, and you've also gained a much more substantial field presence. Arc, so he's got an EX burst but also a damage 3 ability, so when he enters the field you can reactivate either a Jobs Warrior Light or standard units. But if you're 3 damage, you can also choose one Job Standard Unit or Job Warrior Light of cost 3 or less in your break zone and play it onto the field. So provided you got 3 damage, not only can he reactivate things, he can also bring things onto the field. So similar to Varn, he can be quite offensive and give you a much better field presence. Then you got Dorgan. Now this isn't to say that Dorgan should be played on the field with Lezaford, it's more just when a backup enters your field, choose one forward your opponent controls, remove it from the game for as long as Dorgan is on the field. So if you've already got Dorgan there and you play Lezaford into say, I don't know, Bart's, which would also work because Dorgan's Bart's dad, but aside from that, lore-wise, you would have brought 2 backups onto the field and removed 2 of your opponent's forwards, and Dorgan just goes swinging. I quite like that. Okay, so the next card is Zemus 2-148H. He's pretty simple. Dull, choose one forward, it cannot be blocked this turn. So he doesn't get played too much anymore in favour of cards like Yotsuyu, but Yotsuyu is choose one forward, it cannot block, whereas Zemus is choose one forward, it cannot be blocked. So the forward can just go swinging and, provided it doesn't die, get through. Now running No alongside Zemus was quite common because you attack with a forward that can't block, you stand Zemus back up, choose your next forward, that one can't be blocked, rinse and repeat till silky smooth. Now Chelinka adds a whole bunch to this little combo. When Chelinka enters the field, choose one forward, until in turn, it gains Brave, and this forward can attack twice in the same turn. So if you've got a forward that can attack twice in the same turn and not be blocked, oh boy, you got a lot in your hands. So something like Zidane, when he deals damage to your opponent, draw 2 cards. So if you get to draw 4 cards and your opponent has taken 2 damage, that's quite nice, but be careful of milling yourself. The other new Zidane, so when Zidane deals damage to your opponent, choose one forward your opponent controls, deal it 8,000 damage. So you could take out one bigger forward, or you could deal 8k to 2 different forwards and take out 2, that'd be pretty cool. I try and shoehorn this little guy in wherever I can, but Palom, when he deals damage to your opponent, you can search for another Palom and bring it onto the field. So you would have dealt a point of damage to your opponent, but also brought in another Palom. Hopefully you will have dealt 7k something or broken something else as well. It doesn't apply so much with Chelinka, but, you know, it's still there. Now, Archangel. Ooh, if you get Chelinka and Zemus to work on Archangel, you will deal your opponent over 2 attacks, 4 points of damage. That is enough to end a game, but it's also enough to take your opponent very close to the end of the game, even if you're at the very beginning. But what's also interesting is that when Archangel attacks, he gains 3k power, so that would apply for the second attack, so he would go first from 6 to 9, from the second attack from 9 to 12. Now, obviously you're dealing 2 points of damage to your opponent, that means that they could hit an EX burst, but him going to 12k, you never know, that might be enough to keep him alive if the EX burst is based on damage dealing. Sifa, so if you can deal 2 points of damage to your opponent with Sifa, you will have also made all their opponents, all their forwards lose 4k power, which might be enough to let your other forwards push through, or just finish them all off with something like a Cyclops play. Twilight Odin, when Twilight Odin deals damage to your opponent, choose one forward opponent controls and break it. So you can deal 2 points of damage to your opponent and break 2 of their forwards. Don't see anything wrong with that. Next card, Shantou 4-083L. I used to love this card. I mean, I still do love this card. I used to have it in a deck. But when Shantou is out damaged, deal the same amount of damage to all the forwards other than Shantou. If a forward damaged by this ability is put from the field into the break zone, is put into the break zone this turn, removed from the game instead. So that does apply to your forwards as well, so you need to be careful of that. But running alongside something like Hecaton Shed, maybe even Graviton to keep her alive, but you get to throw one of your opponent's forwards into Shantou. Shantou will probably kill that forward, but the damage it's dealt to her then gets flickered around the board, and Graviton will be there to buffer. That works also nicely alongside something like Yojimbo. So Yojimbo would give her a +1, Graviton would give her a +2, maybe you got Enacro to give her another +1, so the likelihood she isn't going to die for your damage, but she will be dealing quite a bit of damage to other things. Now Bomb, this is the way I used to run it, and this is also a decent way of stopping your forwards from dying from damage, is having monsters that have to be activated by you to become forwards. So things like the Gigas. But yeah, Bomb's ability, put Bomb into the break zone, deal 4000 damage to all forwards. So you deal 4k to their side and 4k to your side, but to Shantou, which will then flicker around and deal another 4k to their side, meaning you've done 8k to their forwards and hopefully remove them. But you throw Someone into the mix, things get wacky. So Bomb would deal 5k to everything, but then the damage that Shantou is going to flick around would be 6k, because again the damage is being increased by a summoner's ability. So you then dealt 11k damage to all the forwards. Now again, you want to make sure your forwards aren't dying for this, but you've just board wiped your opponent. Nice. Similar sort of thing with Bomb, put him in the break zone, choose one forward, deal at 3k, and deal 2000 damage to all the forwards your opponent controls. Now this is good because it's only the forwards your opponent controls with this Bomb. Obviously you're then dealing the damage to Shantou, but you know, that's a better advantage towards taking out your opponent's forwards and not your own. Now you can also do this with summons, which is probably more advisable to be honest. But with Vermilion, Bird, Lassie, Kaituna, and Ifrita, if you've got 3 Ifritas or Ifrits in the break zone, you can choose Shantou, deal her 8k with Kaituna, and then 4k to your opponent's side. That means you've just dealt 12k to your opponent's field, which is, well, crazy. And then Kuchaspel, yeah, you really want to be running Kuchaspel, because if you come up against something like Minwoo or Aerith, their damage, they're just going to be reducing their damage, so you want to be able to mitigate that as soon as you can. Okay, Lunafreya 8-132L. So, if you control a category 15 forward, the cost of playing Lunafreya onto the field is reduced by 1. And during your opponent's turn, when a forward other than light and dark you control is put from the field into the break zone, you may put Lunafreya into the break zone. If you do so, play the forward placed into the break zone onto the field doll. Ooh, that's a bit of a mouthful. That would basically mean that you get to flicker something. Lunafreya sacrifices herself. So Momody would mean that you can keep the forward upright, it attacks, but she still gets to make it so that it blocks. Or you can use Chemist, which is in the correct element, but obviously you have to pay for that. Now Cloud of Darkness. If Cloud of Darkness is there standing up and you block with it, put it in the break zone, sacrifice Lunafreya instead, bring Cloud of Darkness back. Say you've got a couple of forwards down already, but you blocked with Cloud of Darkness. When Cloud of Darkness comes back down, she will minus 6k to something. Now there's also the other Cloud of Darkness, where she just comes back, board wipes, and we start fresh. Layla, now this obviously works with Viking as well. You could just sacrifice the Viking, bring it back, and you've just drawn 2 cards. But if you use Layla, Layla comes back, brings in a Viking from the break zone, which is good recursion, draws you a card. Also the Viking she brings in will be standing up, so that you can then block with that Viking if you so need to. Libertas, now this works really well with Lunafreya, because when Libertas enters the field, choose one category 15 character in the break zone, add it to your hand. If it's card named Nyx, select up to 2 backups, activate them. So Libertas goes into the break zone, you sacrifice Lunafreya, you bring in Libertas to get back your Lunafreya. So the two work quite nicely with each other, but it also means that Libertas makes Lunafreya's cost go down as well, so the two go very hand in hand. Zidane, so you block with Zidane, he comes back in on your opponent's turn, and you get to look at their hand. I mean, that can just be a real pain for your opponent. And Umaro, to be able to take any of your opponent's forwards and just slip it back under their deck will be so annoying. And also, when Umaro comes down, your opponent's probably going to do whatever they can to get rid of him. Now, Lunafreya only applies on your opponent's turn, but that's also kind of good because it means that your opponent will be at a disadvantage because on your turn, you will have, hopefully, all your backups open and more in hand to be able to deal with things. Hashmal, Bringer of Order, 2-087R. Props if you got that reference. Name one job or one element. Until the end of the turn, all forwards you control gain 1,000 power and the named job or element. So that works nicely alongside something like Warrior of Light. The job standing unit forwards you control gain plus 2,000 power and first strike. So alongside Hashmal, you make just a normal forward a standard unit, it gains plus 3k and first strike. That's pretty hefty. Ingus, so it works nicely. Obviously, Ingus's ability, if you made it a job Warrior of Light or it was Earth or something like that, the buff Ingus applies only stacks once. So if it was already an Earth forward but you made it Warrior Light, it wouldn't get plus 2k from Ingus alone. So it's a nice way to be able to make off-color forwards become Earth to then get Ingus's ability. But it also gains the element, which means that you can then dull that for Ingus's dull ability. Dull a total of 3 active Earth forwards or Earth backups, which is quite nice and can take your opponent by surprise. Similar sort of thing with Refia. If you've got, I don't know, a few forwards down, but they're not all Warriors of Light, make them all Warriors of Light and then attack with Refia, you just remove something. Sarah, so this could be quite funny. When Sarah attacks, activate all the job Moogle you control, so just make all your forwards Moogles, including Sarah, she will reactivate. The good old Gullwings. So Gullwings alone can be annoying to have to deal with, but if you make some other forwards on your field that are slightly bigger, more threatening maybe, and you make that a Gullwing, that gets 1k bigger and now is untargetable from summons and abilities, which can be a huge pain for your opponent to have to deal with. Eduardo, so when a job Bard forward you control attacks, your opponent discards 1 card from his or her hand. So you've got a couple of forwards down, you play Eduardo, you play Hashmal, you attack twice, or maybe Eduardo's already there, I don't know. You attack, you're making your opponent discard for every attack you do, and they all get a +1 buff. That's the nice thing about Hashmal, is it's not just they gain the element or gain the job, they also gain 1,000 power, which makes them, it gives them a bit more survivability. Rickon, so Job Sky forwards, oh wow, Job Sky Pirate forwards gain plus 2,000 power at the beginning of your attack phase. So alongside Hashmal, that would mean they gain plus 3,000, and Rickon himself would actually gain a K as well. Nyx, so when Nyx enters the field, put 1 job Kingsglaive you control into the break zone. When you do so, choose 1 forward, break it. When a job Kingsglaive other than Nyx you control is put from the field into the break zone, select one of the 2 following actions. Nyx gains haste until the end of the turn, or choose 1 forward, dull it. So you can use Hashmal to make just a random forward you don't care about. A Kingsglaive, you play Nyx, you put that into the break zone, maybe it's got a leave the field ability, that'd be quite nice. But then Nyx would also be able to break one of your opponent's forwards and gain haste if you wanted to, and he will be plus 1k because of Hashmal. X-Death, now this is the card I used to play alongside Hashmal, or rather Hashmal alongside X-Death in my old Mannequins deck. Unfortunately Mannequins aren't a thing really anymore, but the job Mannequin forwards you control gain plus 1,000 power, and for each job Mannequin you control, X-Death gains plus 1,000 power. So by playing Hashmal and making him a Mannequin, he gains 1,000 from Hashmal, he gains 1,000 from the job Mannequin forwards you control gain 1,000 power, but he'd also gain 1,000 because he has upped the count of Mannequins, so from playing this one Hashmal he has gained 3k, which can be a nice swing in power for you. Okay, Meia 11-101H. When a light or dark character either player controls is put from the field into the break zone, choose 1 character other than light or dark in your break zone, add it to your hand. Now Aerith immediately comes to mind, because pay 1 dull, pay Aerith into the break zone, you immediately get to get yourself a card. But choose 1 dark forward, break it. So you have used Aerith to break one of your opponent's dark forwards and put Aerith into the break zone. You get to get 2 cards back to your hand, because Meia's ability stipulates when a light or dark character either player controls. So you broke theirs, you also broke yours, and you get to get 2 cards back. Emperor Gestal, he's got a dull and put Emperor Gestal into the break zone ability, which means that he breaks, you play something onto the field with his ability, but then get something back with Meia's ability. Wall. When Wall is put from the field into the break zone, choose 1 40 opponent controls, deal 9k damage, and get something back from your break zone with Meia. Emperor, and this is funny, I have always enjoyed this card, it doesn't get much play anymore unfortunately. When the Emperor is put from the field into the break zone, you may search for 1 card named the Emperor and play it onto the field dull. So he goes away and you get something back with Meia's ability, but he also brings another version of himself back onto the field, which can be quite annoying for your opponent because that forward is still there, but you've got a card to hand. Wall. So Wall has a, when Wall is put from the field into the break zone, choose 1 Job Warrior of Light of cost 3 or less in the break zone, play it onto the field. So when this guy dies, he gets something onto the field and via Meia gets something back to your hand. So if you're running a nice Warrior Light deck, that could be quite nice. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe. Yes, I'm doing that cringy thing. Add JokoBilly92 on Twitter to have a little chat with me, and I will see you guys in the next video.